In this Blender tutorial, I'll show you how I made a low poly snake animation in Blender. This tutorial was requested by B Filmorama Studio. The keys I'm using are in the bottom right corner of the viewport. The two add-ons I'll be using are the Node Wrangler and the Loop tools. I'll be using the default cube to make the snake. I scale the cube along the y-axis until I'm happy with the length of the snake. In edit mode, I then scale the end face of the snake that will become the tail. In top view, I add a bunch of edge loops. In X-ray mode, I select the front section of the snake and scale the faces to make the head. Moving it up along the z-axis. I select the front face of the head and scale it down. For the eyes, I add a UV sphere and scale it to the proper size. Rotating it around the y-axis 90 degrees. And then separate it from the rest of the mesh. In object mode, I add a mirror modifier along the x-axis. And shade the eye smooth. In edit mode, I delete the back 2/3 of the eye. And move them into place on the head. In object mode, I add a subdivision surface modifier. And shade the snake smooth. I turn on the Auto Smooth option on the Object Data Properties tab under the Normals panel. I then apply the modifier. I select the eye, and in edit mode, I place the eye in the final position on the head. In object mode, I apply the mirror modifier and join the eyes to the body. I then apply all the transforms. In edit mode, I select 4 faces on each side of the snake for the nostrils. I inset the faces and use the loop tools to make the faces into a circle. I then inset the faces once more and extrude them inwards. I scale the snake to its final size and apply all the transforms. I can then add some materials to the snake. The link to the scales material I'm using is in the description. I split the viewport and open the UV editor and the shader editor. In edit mode, I select the edge loop toward the bottom of the snake where the 2 types of different scales will meet. I then mark the seam. I also mark the seam around the eyes and the nostrils. I select the entire snake and unwrap it. I rearrange the UV island and then export the UV map. I give the new material a name. I then use the node wrangler and set up my material for the upper part of the snake. Now note, for some reason the base color does not come in correctly, so I needed to manually add it. I select the eyes and the nostrils and give them their own black material. And assign the material to the eyes and the nostrils. I then select the belly of the snake and give it a new light green material. And I assign the material to the belly of the snake. I add a color ramp to the principled BSDF shader. I add a third color stop to the color ramp and change the color to black. I change the black and white color stops to a light green color. I add a wave texture and change the axis to Y. I also changed the wave profile to triangle. To add a bit of bumpiness to the belly, I'll add a bump map and a Voronoi texture. I changed the vector to 4D and changed the scale and randomness. I also changed the strength of the bump node. I'll now make a short animation for the snake. I add a ground plane and give it a material to act as the ground layer. I move the 3D cursor to the nose of the snake using Shift right-click and set the origin to the 3D cursor, and then move the snake back along the Y-axis. I add a Bezier circle and scale it up. I select the snake and add a curve modifier with the object being the circle and the deform axis being Y. The snake is on its side, so I'll rotate it around the Y-axis 90 degrees. In edit mode, I subdivide the circle and change the shape of it. I split the viewport and open the dope sheet. Changing the end frame to 100 under the Output Properties tab. In Object Mode, I select the snake, and on Frame 1, add a keyframe for location and rotation. On Frame 100, I move the snake along the Y-axis and add a keyframe for location and rotation. If you have a request for a tutorial, a question, or a comment, feel free to leave a comment below the video. If you're interested in learning more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.